to us today. We're going to be talking about some current events, namely how this last week it was National Doctors Day. We're going to talk about some pastors who got arrested, and we're going to talk a little bit about April Fool's Day. Also, some church updates, entertainment stuff revolving around music. And just like always, we're going to give you some scripture reflections and Bible prayer suggestions. What do you think about that, Jen?
It's pretty good. We're going to be talking a lot in depth about these current events, which is pretty crazy this past week.
Right, let's jump into it. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first of all, Jennifer, anything new from you?
Let's see. No, it's just this past week I started my AMI stuff, which is just my online stuff, which has actually been a lot more, more than regular work that I would be doing if I actually went to school physically.
Dang.
But other than that, it's been pretty normal. Just staying at home, going to work, school.
I see.
The usual.
Yeah. Well, as for me, not to brag or anything, but I took a test and got 100 on it.
Not to brag. Okay.
I'm not bragging. It's just.
What was it about?
It was a physics test.
Oh.
And you know what? I even was able to help my friend get 100 on it by just helping him out. Yeah. I mean, like we have the same, okay, it's not cheating. Okay, look, we have our resources are ourselves at this point. Okay. You understand?
Yeah. So no, it's not cheating at all.
It's
Definitely.
not cheating.
No,
it's not. I helped him out. He got 100. I got 100. Everyone's happy. He understood stuff. Okay.
That's pretty good then.
So yeah, that's me. Other than that, I got a new video game and I've been playing it a lot. And
of course.
But let's move on from that.
Okay, please.
Okay, so let's talk about some current events. So we're gonna be talking about a couple of things, not too many, just a couple things about what happened throughout this whole last week. So not just what's happening today, but also just what kind of happened throughout the week. And we're gonna start off by talking about March 30th. That was on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, and that was National Doctors Day.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the only one who appreciates the kind of work that they're putting in these times. Just so much, so much gratitude from pretty much the whole country, or if not the whole world, for these types of people who have these jobs: doctors, nurses, healthcare providers in general.
Even the ones who go in there and clean afterwards, them definitely.
Oh yeah.
It's been a real struggle. I've actually seen a picture of this doctor who he was done with his shift and he was just out there against the wall, just leaning, and he looked so exhausted, and it was a crazy realization that there's actually people that risk their lives every day going out there trying to make a cure for this and trying to help those who are also infected with this. And, they also have to go back out there with their families, because they need a break, of course, but then they go right back into it, and it's hard. It
definitely is. And even though it was National Doctors Day, that doesn't mean that the virus is going to take a break on that Monday.
Yeah.
It definitely didn't, and also the situation just hasn't been really getting any better. And especially for healthcare providers, it seems that sometimes things can be pretty rough. Throughout the week, we saw how for healthcare providers, some of them have been resigning or have been fired because of lack of equipment. And how that happened is that, I'm sure you guys know that a lot of masks have been in very short supply for hospitals all around the country, and that's not, that's mainly because other people who don't need it have been taking them, stocking them up, and because of that, there's been a huge shortage. In fact, there have been, I've seen how different states have had to outbid other states for supplies, which is crazy. It's like I'll pay $5 per mask, and then another state will be like, I'll pay $6. And so like it's just not something that's not how it should be, but that's unfortunately what's happening. And because of this lack of of supplies, namely masks, I saw a story about how a woman who had her own N95 mask she was a doctor. She was told not to wear it by her administrators because if she wore it around the hospital, then others would want one while the hospital couldn't give them one. And so because of that, she was told to not wear it. And because she refused to wear it so as not to get infected and take the virus home to her family, to her children, she was terminated. She was terminated, and and after complaining, they reinstated her, but then she got terminated again, all in the span of 3 days.
Oh, 3 days. Wow.
It's
And all because of a mask. That's pretty crazy to think about.
it's insane. People have been getting fired, and they've also been just resigning because of frustration of this. I mean, our healthcare providers, they really, really deserve our respect right now, and through what they're going through, what they're having to put their family, their friends, their own lives at risk for not just us, but for the whole country.
I have seen, though, that a bunch of small businesses have been actually changing their, what's it called, factory lines, I guess, and making masks.
Yeah.
Which is actually really great. It's actually something positive that has come out, and like it's just good to see how many of us are coming together and just trying to help each other out during this pandemic, because it is a struggle for all of us. And so to see that, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. On the bright side, this has brought a lot of awareness to how our medical infrastructure is, and we have, in fact, a lot of people donating to places like food banks or donating money to help pay for a certain amount of supplies for a hospital. We have celebrities like Ryan Reynolds and his family, I remember, is one of them, and I'm pretty sure we have other people that I just can't remember of. And sometimes whenever that comes up, you see someone's an article that says, I don't know, Google donates, or like a person, let's say like the CEO of Google donates like $1 million. And then, that seems like a good thing. But then for some reason, people go in and be like, oh my gosh, that's only like 1% or like not even 1% of your net worth. And then they're just complaining. It's $1 million and they're complaining over here.
That's still pretty good,
Yeah. I mean, how much have you donated, And so, despite all of the stuff that's happening, we do see every now and then a bit of good news.
Yes, which is good, because we need that.
Yeah, we definitely do. Okay, so kind of related to that, let's talk about what I mentioned at the beginning. You might have been like, wait, what did you say, Kevin? Did you say pastors are getting arrested? Is this like the end of the world? What is happening? Should I should I run away and live on a hill so that I don't get persecuted as a Christian or something? No. Calm down.
No.
It's not that bad. Not yet. Dun, dun, dun. Well, what's happening is we got some unruly pastors who have been not exactly taking this situation seriously. We have a pastor in Florida whose name is Rodney Howard Brown, who was arrested this week. I can't remember when it was, but it was because in Florida there is a stay-at-home order, and in his county, and he actually continued to hold services, and he's actually a church, the pastor of a big church, of a mega church. So he ended up having a lot of people, hundreds of people congregating, potentially spreading this virus.
But it did say that he was handing out sanitizers or hand sanitizers, that his staff members had gloves, so they were taking, the precautions that they needed. But you could see, because they also recorded it live, you could also see that there's a bunch of people just gathered around, not having 6 feet in between them. So
Social isolation, man. I mean, for us Christians, we could think, leave a little bit of room for Jesus or something in there, spread out, But this pastor, even though we're still having our services, we're having them live, and whenever we do have people here who are helping to do the live transmissions, well, there's not usually any more than around 10 people here, which is around the limit of what we should be having. We have the essential personnel, while this pastor had the whole worship team, all of the staff members, his whole congregation was there. And like you said, there was no separation at all, and a great risk. Oh, but don't worry, Jennifer. You know why?
Why?
Because he had some technology that apparently made it so that anyone who entered the building immediately had no virus on them at all. And this is a quote straight from him. He claimed to own machines that basically kill any virus. If somebody walks in the door, it kills everything on them. If they sneeze, it shoots it down at 100 miles an hour.
Oh my God, what?
I, okay, breaking that down, there's not much. I'm laughing because obviously that's not something that's real. I mean, come on. If something like that actually existed, don't you think hospitals would have it?
They would.
He was flaunting about it during his service that he was holding, saying that he spends tens of thousands of dollars on these machines. Oh man. So yeah, there's a difference between having faith in God and just being unwise and not
A huge
obeying
difference, yes.
your authorities. In fact, it was because of this, because he ignored the warnings from authorities, and he held 2 large services and even bussed people into his service, into his church, that he was arrested. It was on Monday, on charges of unlawful assembly and violating quarantine orders during a public health emergency, which is punishable for up to, I think it was $500 and 6 days in prison.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I also did read that after that, he received many death threats. So he decided now that he would hold off on having services in church. So that's good, but also he lost his insurance for the church, which that's not good at all.
As I said, our pastor, even though we're still holding services, they're live. Everything that we're doing is live. Like, even though we wish we could hug you, we wish we could see you and embrace you, we can't. We got to do it through this microphone. So hug your phone or whatever you're listening to right now so we can hug you. We are doing this for our safety, for your own safety, and also just to respect authorities. I mean, no one's telling us that we shouldn't worship God. No one's telling us that we can't have our services. There are pastors all over the world who are doing the same thing that we are. It's not like we're being persecuted. It's not like we're being told that we can't worship. We just got to do it in a way that is safe for everybody and also abides by authorities, the things that they have told us that we should be doing. And that's why I'm thankful for our pastor. He's very wise. He's not someone who is overreactive. I don't know how to say it. He's very wise is what I'm trying to say. It just kind of makes me think like why this pastor was like this. I feel like if that type of reaction is happening, and he's not the only one. There are other pastors around the country who have been also reported of doing the same thing, and also have been getting arrested. And I feel like if they do that, it's not more of like a faith thing. It's probably more of like either 1, ignorance, or 2, money. I mean, if you think about it, people who come to church like in person probably give more money, than people over the internet. And I feel like that's a big factor. Unfortunately, not every pastor is going to be the same, as to put it lightly. Yeah. Well, that wasn't the only bit of news about coronavirus over the week. We had, as you all know, it was on Tuesday, right? April Fool's Day. April 1st.
April 1st.
Yeah. And, a lot of people were saying that they shouldn't be messing around or making any pranks referring to the COVID-19 because of April Fool's, even if it was a prank, But despite that, we still had a couple people on the news who made it on the news, not for good reasons, as you're probably aware, or you can tell from the way we're talking about it. We had a K-pop star named Kim Jae-jung who told his 2 million Instagram followers that he tested positive for coronavirus. And afterwards, he received a lot of support and a lot of comments and a lot of love and a lot of people, saying, hey, okay, we're with you. But then less than an hour later, he clarified that he doesn't have the virus, saying that his prank was to promote awareness for social distancing. And afterwards, you can guess he got a lot of criticism afterwards.
Of course.
I feel like,
first of all, why would you want to do that? I mean, there's a difference in making what would you say? A statement about social distancing. There's a difference between making a statement about that and just making a whole joke about it, Yeah. There's other things, completely different other things that you could do to promote that. I mean, making a joke about it that's something that you shouldn't do.
Exactly. if you have Alzheimer's, you're not gonna tell people I have Alzheimer's to raise awareness. You're gonna like do like a charity, some sort of charity awareness, a fundraiser or something, not lie to people. And well, April Fools. I guess he was the one who ended up being pranked on. In the end, he wasn't the one left laughing at the end for sure. But speaking of April Fools, how did anything interesting happen to you on Tuesday?
No, not interesting to me, but I actually have been seeing this challenge going around where you have your sibling or someone else, they have to copy everything that you do, but in the end, you trick them. So I did this with my brother. He didn't want to do it at first, but I convinced him with money, of course. I was like, okay, so listen. I will give you $40 if you copy everything that I do. So I had like this whole setup and everything. I had like 2 glasses of water, one for me, one for him. And then I had some Nutella and a spoon, I just did. So I grabbed the spoon, I got some Nutella, ate it. He did the same thing. I got some Germix because we had a hand sanitizer there, and I got some, rubbed it, and then he did the same thing. So then after, I grabbed my water, I drank some, set it down. He did the same thing. Then I went again, I grabbed the water, and I drank it, but I didn't swallow it all. He didn't know that, of course, so I sat it down, just acted normal. And then I went back, and I grabbed some Nutella again. But then I sat it back down, and what I did was grab the water, spit out the water that I had in my mouth the whole time, and that's where he lost it. He he was like, "What? This isn't fair. You didn't tell me this." I'm like, "That's the whole point."
I see.
So, April Fool's on him. So
Okay.
it was pretty funny.
It's a pretty lighthearted challenge. Yeah, I can see that. My little sister has been trying to get me to do like this challenge where like she like blindfolds you and then she feeds you food and you have to like guess the food.
Oh,
and she recorded my mom doing it. It's like on Facebook, and I was like, no, Esther, I'm not gonna record that for you on Facebook. I was telling her, look, I'll play a game with you, but I am not gonna do something dumb and put it on the internet. That's just not how it's gonna happen. I am sorry.
Okay, that's kind of fair.
Yeah. But, for me on April Fool's Day, what happened was I woke up to a message from my cousin Andrea. And if you know her, she's something. She sent me a message and she said, Kevin, she's also engaged, by the way, to Diego, who's her fiance. And they're living in Missouri right now. Mm-hmm. So they're a couple hours away from here. And she has her wedding planned for... I can't remember when, but it's later in the year.
September.
I think it might be September or
somewhere
October. There. Yeah. And she sent me a message. She's like, Kevin, after everything that's happening with this virus, me and Diego aren't going to be able to get married anymore. We're going to have to elope. And I was like, oh no. I was so sad. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, I'm so sorry. I read the message. I was like, okay, I'm going to call her when I'm done showering and getting ready and ate breakfast. So I ate breakfast. I got ready. A couple hours later, I send her, I call her. I'm like, Andrea. She's like, Kevin? She's like, I am so sorry. Look, it's going to be okay. And she goes, April Fool.
Oh, no.
And
oh my gosh, no.
The thing is, Andrea, you're not Andrea, you're Jennifer. The thing is, Jennifer, that she had sent a very similar prank to me last year when she was also engaged. She's been engaged for about a year now. And she was like, me and Diego fought. We're not going to get married anymore. She said that last year. And I fell for it last year. And she said it again this year. And I didn't think about it.
How could you not?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, no. That would actually break my heart too, though. I don't blame you that much. I'd fall for it too.
Yeah, it was just bad. So if you guys know Andrea, send her some mean faces or something because she messed with me.
Oh man.
Well, that's pretty much gonna do it for our current events and I guess a little bit of personal life updates as well. So we talked about all that. Now let's move on to some more local stuff. Our church, our youth group. Just a couple of announcements this time. First of all, you guys know that this week, if you're listening on Monday, is the week where we celebrate Easter. Towards the end, we have Good Friday and we have Palm Sunday. We have Easter, the whole resurrection, everything. And because of that, we are not able to have our regular Easter service that we usually do here at church, where we usually have a huge celebration, and because of Jesus' resurrection and sacrifice for us, we would have dramas, we would have videos, we would have the children doing stuff, the dance team, Jennifer over here being the star of it. We would have so much going on, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen this year. But that doesn't mean that we youth are going to be left out, because we have been asked to try to get together and record a drama or some sort of sketch that we can, record and edit, and then on Sunday for Easter, while Pastor is preaching or during his preaching, we play it. We play it on the live transmission that we're going to have, and we have that as our, quote unquote drama sketch. And what do you think about that?
I think that's actually very, very good. We're not going to be left out, like you said, so that's good. And because we're not able to, have this big celebration, like you said, that's better than nothing. So, and with that, we also want to invite some of you guys, if you want to come out and record this drama with us. We don't have it completely planned out yet, but, more information is going to come. And if you want to do this, just contact one of us, any of us from the youth leadership, and, we'll give you more information about that.
Yeah, you could definitely reach out to our Instagram as well. We'll definitely see that and respond to you. And any and all participants are welcome. We have no bar. So if you are a newbie to this, then we could use you.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay, another thing is, I'm sure you've seen, because you guys are 100% on top of everything that we do on Instagram, we have an Awaken Youth Instagram challenge. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Jennifer?
Well, they recently put out a video where you can record or you can submit a video, which is called the COVID-19 handshake, except you come up with this handshake that uses everything else but your hands, because of all this this whole virus, this whole pandemic thing. We're social distancing. We can't be so close to everyone. So what you have to do is come up with a handshake that involves, you could use your knees, you could use your legs, your ankles, your elbows, your arms, everything else except for your hands. Now, when you submit it, you have the chance of winning $25.
Dang, that's like a lot.
That's a lot of money. $25.
Like, I could buy like a whole T-shirt with that.
It's a pretty nice T-shirt,
yeah. And also, even better than that, you get to get featured on our world famous Instagram channel. Holy moly. Gosh, Jennifer, I'm just so excited. I can't wait to submit my own.
Oh, gosh.
No, but for real, guys, come on, send us something so that we can choose, one of you guys' videos. And hey, if no one else submits one, maybe you can be the only one and you win it by default.
Oh, that's pretty smart then.
Thanks. First come, first serve. All right. So that pretty much does it for our church updates. As far as, when we reopen our, regular activities, that's still probably a far time away. We definitely know that this whole quarantine thing is going to be in effect at least until the end of the month. So you can expect to keep hearing more of our lovely voices in this podcast for quite some time. Okay, let's move on to a new part that we didn't, segment that we didn't do last time, and that's our entertainment segment,
Yes.
where we're going to talk about either music or movies or TV shows or heck, even books or anything at all that might catch your interest, to keep you occupied. And of course, everything's going to be Christian related. Everything's going to be something that'll help you out in some way. And we're not going to recommend to you to go listen to freaking Miley Cyrus or something over here. We're gonna talk to you about that real holy church music.
I like how you said that. Yeah.
My stutter. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of new releases that have recently come out. Gavi, if you know who Gavi is, he's put out a new pre-release of his album Heathen, and he's already got two of those tracks
yeah.
out, which is Climate Change and Not Too Far. And after having heard that for this whole like couple of week and a half or whatever that it's been out, they're really good.
Yeah.
What else can you expect from Gavi? He's put out 2 past albums before and a couple of EPs, and they're just really
They're
good.
Really good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for this new one too.
Oh yeah. And we also have Elevation Worship, who I'm sure that you guys know, and if you don't, you definitely need to check out. We play some of their songs here at church, like worship songs and praise songs, and we see that they also pre-released their album Graves into Gardens, which has 2 tracks out. One of which I've heard called called My Testimony. It's actually really good. It's not rap or anything like that. Like Gavi's, I don't know what kind of. He's more like
more into the
rap
kind of rhythm thing.
Yeah, more almost kind of like. It's different. It's different. You gotta listen to it. It's almost kind of like electro dance, kind of, but more rappy.
Yeah.
But Elevation Worship, they're more the traditional worship, praise, contemporary Christian artists. With their whole live getup and their guitars and their drums and everything. And they're really, really talented. And they have this new song, My Testimony, and it's really good. And it starts off, really, really amazing. I suggest you check it out. Also, we have Lecrae going back into kind of like the rap, like straight up rap.
Yeah.
He came out with a new single called Set Me Free, which is also very good if you're into that kind of music.
That song actually, I've been listening. I have it on my recent added playlist, and I keep hearing it, and there's this verse where it goes, "Set me free from the shackles." That verse it was really good.
Yeah. Lecrae has some really fire stuff. I've been listening to him for a while now, even though I'd say about half of his music is geared more towards like African Americans. I still feel like his music is very good. And even if I'm not African American, obviously, you can tell by my voice, even if you can't see me, you can really relate to it, and it's really good. Also, Hillsong Young and Free has released a new single called Best Friends, and I think that's been out for a little bit under a month. And it's really good. Young and Free is one of my favorite bands because of their style and because of how upbeat they are, but just also how passionate I see that they are. I went to Winter Jam, and I unfortunately did not get to see them, but my cousin Andrea, who I mentioned earlier, did go to Winter Jam before this whole thing went down, and she did get to see them, and they're really good. I've been wanting to catch them live for a while now. So yeah. So check out Gavi, Elevation Worship, Lecrae, and Hillsong Free for their new music. And if you have anything else that you would like to share with the rest of us, you just send us a message on our Instagram, and we'll see if we can share that with everyone else. That way we can all have a little bit of music to bump us up in these times.
All right. Well, talking about all this music, is there anything else that you've been listening to?
Yeah, actually, I've got a couple of artists that maybe I'd like to recommend to you guys. I myself have a lot of range in music. Like I listen to either rap sometimes, but I literally came into before here and I was listening to Red, which is like metal, not metal, but they're like a hard rock band, and they actually have a new album. So if you're into that kind of stuff, check it out. It's called Declaration. Is really good. But what I actually recommend that you guys listen to something a little bit more for everyone is so we talked about Elevation Worship, but they also got kind of like a spin-off band called Elevation Rhythm, and they are actually very good. Not a lot of people know them. They're really new. It's kind of like the Young and Free of Hillsong, but Rhythm is for Elevation, and they have some really good songs. They've put out a lot of singles recently, and I'm really into the song Heartbeat and also the other one called Better With You. They're really good. They're more like electro, they're more dance, so it's not like your typical contemporary Christian, which is a very refreshing. Also, Montel Fish is a very, very, very good artist who has a lot of talent and a lot of passion for what he does. Montel Fish is kind of like, he's a rapper, but most of the stuff that he does is mostly lo-fi.
Yes,
like, in fact, he's got an album called Bedroom Lo-Fi that he recently put out maybe a couple months ago, and it's really, really, really good. It's nice for putting it on while you're just doing something else in the background, maybe washing dishes or like doing some homework, studying. Oh, yeah. His music is very, very chill, very nice. And there's also another song called Provider that I recommend that you listen to. Really just check out his whole stuff. You can check him out on YouTube or on any streaming platform. And for those of you who like to listen to a little bit of Spanish music and I recommend Un Corazon, which is a Spanish band, but they're also kind of more of like elevation rhythm and Hillsong Free. They're very much geared towards like young people. They're very
Upbeat. Yeah.
upbeat, like dance kind of music, and their songs are very good. Like I recommend Eres and En Esta Vida. Both of those songs are really good. But if you want to hear something that has a little bit of English in it, their newest song called Rios de Luz also features Andy Mineo, and that one's really good. I've been listening to that one for a little bit since it came out, and it's very
I
nice.
actually haven't heard that one. I might go listen to it then.
Oh yeah, definitely. I recommend that. Well, what about you? What have you been listening to? What do you recommend to our listeners?
Well, I don't know. Recently, I've been listening to a lot of artists who aren't really as mainstream, like Gavi and Andy. But there's this one song. I actually posted it on my story on Instagram recently. It's called Yes and Amen by Matthew Ziggins. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his last name. But it's more like I wouldn't say lo-fi kind of song. It's more of a worship kind of soothing kind of song, and it talks a lot about how if you call me God, then yes, I will go, yes and amen. And it just kind of repeats that over and over, and it just has this really good rhythm that inspires you and encourages you, which is something that I really like.
Yeah.
And I'm also listening to this other song called Look to Jesus by Samuel Lane. And again, these artists aren't really like mainstream. A lot of people don't really know them, but these artists come out with songs that are just a little more kind of an upbeat kind of worship kind of songs. And I don't know, that's just what I've been really into right now. I've kind of kind of lost track with, releases from Andy Mineo or, like you said, Gavi. These artists are just kind of, they're just kind of touching me right now, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. We all go through kind of like a different phase of music.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I listened a lot to, I still listen to like more like rock songs, but I had a lot more like alternative rock going on in the background.
Yes.
And my favorite 3 bands, I still listen to them regularly, but not as much as I used to. Reliant K was my favorite band.
Reliant K.
Yeah, and Switchfoot and Need to Breathe, all of them. But I don't listen to them as much anymore, but I definitely went through a phase where I had a different style than I do now.
Yeah, that was kind of the same for me. I like all kinds of genres, I like the rock, like you said, Reliant K, Switchfoot. I like lo-fi as well, but I don't know, right now I'm kind of more into these contemporary kind of music, and yeah.
All right.
It's just been kind of soothing.
All right, guys, make sure to check out these songs and these artists. I think it's going to be very good for you guys. Let's move on kind of towards like the latter half or the latter part of our podcast. We're gonna talk. We're gonna have Jennifer talk a little bit about some scripture. So let's listen.
All right. Well, a few weeks ago, I read this verse, or I was kind of reading through. It's Psalms 46, or chapter 46, verses 1 through 3. When I was reading this, I haven't really been going through anything major, but I was reading this, and it just kind of touched me how much we all kind of need this. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam, let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. One thing that kind of spoke out to me was that God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. Of course, we hear all the time that God will help us through everything, that God will be there through for everything that goes on. But I also kind of thought, if he can be there for the bad times, we can also expect him to be there in the good times, because it says all times. And I just kind of reflected a little bit on it, and I was like, that is very true. Sometimes I believe we get distracted with other things, like, for example, this the whole pandemic that's going on. We get distracted, and we don't think about how God can always be there for us, And I don't know, recently I've been thinking more about how not only can he be there for us in our times of need, but he can be there for us in our good times, and our high moments. And so I think that's something that we should really think about, especially now with all this going on. We need to take a moment and just realize that everything that's been happening is in his control. So there is no need for us to worry. There's no need for us to just go freak out and buy a whole bunch of toilet paper and just have it stocked up there. Let's remember that he is our refuge. He's the one that we can always go to in our good times and in our bad times. And just with that, we also need to remember that not only do we need a connection with him, but like Pastor was saying earlier, that these moments are good times to, connect more with our siblings, connect more with our parents. And I think that's really true. We can also depend on those around us and, build better connections with them. And yeah, that those 3 verses right there really, really made me think about this. And I think it's something that all of us should read and, reflect on as well.
Yeah, that's definitely something that has probably been on a lot of our minds, or should it be at least. And I'm sure it will be now to our listeners. We definitely are going to want to depend on others, be a lot more closer to God, because, in these times, there's only so much that we can do by ourselves.
Yes.
Okay. And now I'm sure you've heard enough of our voices pretty much for the rest of the week. We're just going to close off with a couple of Bible verses that you should be reading, and also some prayer suggestions that you should also be doing throughout this week. We suggest that you do it. As we talked about in the beginning, or kind of towards the middle, I guess, this week we have Easter. And because of that, I would like to recommend to you guys to read some of those chapters in the Bible that have to do with Easter and the resurrection and Jesus and his whole last couple of days here on earth. And I recommend specifically 4 chapters. I'd go ahead and read chapter 21 of Matthew, which is what Pastor talked about today. He mentioned it's a different. He read it in Luke, but it's still the same part. We also recommend that you read chapters 26, 27, and 28 of Matthew, which have to do with the first one, 28, that I told you was the triumphal entry into Jerusalem when Jesus walks into Jerusalem riding on a donkey. Chapter 26, 27, and 28, they have to do with the Last Supper, Jesus getting arrested, Jesus being tried in front of I think it was Pilate, and him being crucified, and of course chapter 28 is the resurrection. So I think it's very crucial that we remember that in these times, Jesus did so much for us, and we shouldn't have to worry about anything else if we know that we have Jesus's love and his protection and his care. If he was able to conquer death, then nothing else in the world could possibly stop us, even this pandemic. Yes. So I think that this is a very, very key thing to remember. That's why I think we should read it, and that's why I recommend it to you. I also recommend for prayer every day, every time you get the chance, try to pray for wisdom and strength for all of the churches around the world, so that people are a lot more wise than the pastors that we talked about earlier, and also strength to the people who are actually staying home, who can't go to church, who can't even leave their houses. It's very tough. It's very rough for some people, and we just need a lot of prayer for them and a lot of prayer for ourselves, and also for our healthcare providers, like we mentioned earlier. Definitely. Pray for God to protect them, to give them wisdom, to give them a lot of strength for what they're going through, and of course reward them when all of this is over. And so, with that, I think we're gonna go ahead and close off. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for listening in on us, for spending over half an hour of your time with us. We're sorry and thank you. And we ask, for you guys to keep us in your prayers and to keep the rest of the youth in your prayers. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Any last words, Jen?
No, just thank you so much for listening and, continuing to listen to our voices till the very end. So.
Yeah. Okay, guys. God bless you. Have a good week.